Let's look at the strategic thinking quadrant. This is the realm of possibilities. This is the quadrant where the themes also integrate with each other, that if you have one or two, you pretty much have the whole quadrant probably. And I want you to understand that. This is the realm of possibilities only because this is the area where the mind doesn't shut down. Okay, it's like the mind is on all the time. Kind of like those generator lights, even if the power goes out, there's always that one light that stays on. That's really what this quadrant is about. I want to talk about these not necessarily in the order that they're listed on the screen or on your document, but to understand the way these partner together as well. So the first two I want to talk about are analytical and strategic. And the interesting thing about analytical and strategic is these are the two questioning themes of the 34th theme. Analytical asks the question why. The person who has the theme of analytical, if you pay attention, if this is you, stop and think. If you know someone with analytical, think about this, or if you don't know that this is their theme, but now you recognize, yeah, they're always saying why. You know, why are we doing that? Why is it happening now? Why you, not me? You know, why? That is analytical. But what is really interesting, basically what's happening is they're slowing things down too, to making sure we've got all the information. Obviously, if somebody's asking why, they don't feel complete in the information that they have. Now, this is going to look a bit like deliberative that we talked about in the executing themes. The difference there is deliberative is not asking why, they just are slowing things down to gather. Analyticals want to know the why behind everything that's being put at them. Here's a really interesting fact about analyticals, though, is that if you take the time to answer the question why, give them the information that is needed. And if they absorb that information, if they buy into that information, if that is something that they can grab onto, then you have a whole new, especially if you are a leader, you have a whole new power force walking with you, because you're not alone then. You have another communication champion walking with you. And many times it's this person that can be the person that can be the explainer, that can share the information in a way that maybe you couldn't, that because they said, you know, I wondered that too. I asked that question why, but let me tell you, that's what we find with analyticals. Slow down enough yourself to get to know them and understand where the question is coming from, and you've got a great team member. Well, if analytical asks why, strategic asks what if. Now, what strategic says is there's more than one right answer. You know, if option A doesn't work, let's go to option B. That reality of there are multiple right answers. There's lots of ways to get to that end goal. Now, if you are that linear thinker, you're going to go, no way does this work. But now, those of you that are always saying, what if, you have a word to put with it because you're very strategic in that sense of saying, you know, this idea of idea arrangement. It can be put in all sorts of different patterns and made to work out. So those are our two questioning themes. And then we've got these two themes of context and futuristic. These are our timeline themes. And I'm going to tell you right now, whether or not these themes showed up for you, we all live on this timeline. So I want us to understand this. Context says the past informs the present. So the person that has context is the person that says, I understand how we got here, or let me give you that information, or I've got some background for you. Because from the past, a person with context will say, well, here's what we need to replicate, but you know, this never worked before. Why would we want to try this now? We have figured that out. And or even in our personal realm, people with context are people who love to go backwards in time, the remember when kind of a thing. So recognize that context impacts all of our worlds. Remember, we take our strengths wherever we go. So that reality of context, past informing presence, on the other end of that continuum, if context is here, futuristic is over here. And futuristic is saying, there's this passion for the future. I can't wait for tomorrow. Yeah, I'm living today, but this is where I'm headed. And people who are futuristic generally are, I think the image that always comes to my mind, they're like a helium balloon, where they're always kind of floating away, and it's almost like you have to grab onto them and weight them down to stay in the present, especially if you need them there. That picture of that preferred future, which we call futuristic people many times, is such a draw and so captivating for them that once they get to where that next step is, they're already on to the next step then. So that's our timeline of context and futuristic. But then remember, the very first theme we talked about was adaptability. Adaptability is that person that is carpe diem, that lives for today. That person is smack dab in the middle of that timeline continuum. And they are the person that says, you know what, I can't do anything about the past, so I'm just going to let it go. I'm not going to ruminate on it. I'm not going to let it ruin my day, or I'm not even going to let it inform what we're doing. And I may or may not have the privilege of living tomorrow or even being here where this vision is going. So I need to be the person that helps us invest in the moment, stay with today, and so that we can get to where it is we want to go based upon where we've come from the past. So again, think about where you live. And in leadership, again, this is such an important timeline to understand and to recognize where your people in your team, in your organization reside. What are they bringing to the table? What are they bringing to the jobs in the sense of their perspectives of past, present, and future? Then the ideation is really a fun theme to talk about. This is the free think person. This is the person that loves storyboarding. They love just thinking outside of the box. A person with ideation, I will tell you this, if you don't grab that person right now with whatever it is they're offering, if you wait 5 minutes or 30 minutes, they may not remember where they were at that point in time. Because that's the way, those of you with ideation, that's the way your minds work. That's the way you're wired, to keep on keeping on. So ideation people are wonderful people to have on a team, especially if we feel like we're in a rut, or we've kind of done things the same way all the time, or we just kind of get stalled in where we're going. If you check around to see if you have ideation on your team, may or may not be the case, because I can guarantee those of you that are ideation, and I appreciate you so much in that sense of helping us just keep generating that movement and that momentum. And then the other three that are here, it's almost like if you have one, you have all three, because they are really hard to differentiate, okay? The first one is input. And people with input are those collectors. You're like a sponge. You just absorb, okay? And so it might be absorbing tangible things. These are the collectors. If you watch the reality show Hoarders, I'm sure those are input people. It's just that collection of whatever, and lots of different kinds of collections that are there. But the other side of that, it can be intangible collecting. Many times we hear, I'm a collector of quotes. I'm a collector of thoughts or philosophies, or music is just in my head all the time. Rhythm, I collect rhythm. I can't tell you all the different pieces of collections I've heard people talk about. I heard one person say, I collect people. I collect friendships. One person wanted to be a professional friend because of this thing of input, and then he had communication as well. Loved just interacting with individuals. So the collector, is that you? But input and learner generally partner together, because learner is just that process of learning, and it can be anything. And again, not caring about what the outcome is. Okay, I just want to absorb. I want to know more. People who are learner and input people generally are people that are really good at trivia, because they have continued to research. And also I hear with learner and input many times, get lost in the internet, because I start looking for something, and 30 minutes later, 3 hours later, I am somewhere that I just keep hitting those clicks, or those links that have taken me places I never considered as I've been walking through this. So that idea of continuous improvement is very much a learner as well. Self-help, I think the self-help industry has definitely been resourced and processed from learner people as well, because there's always something else to know. But recognize the learner doesn't have to be something professional or academic. It can just be nonsense kind of things too, but it's curious. People with learner are very curious people, and almost to the point of being insatiable at points in time. And then the theme that trumps this whole category of strategic thinking is intellection. And again, intellection is just that idea, the mind does not shut down. You know, it is on all the time. Generally, people with intellection, and again, these three probably are all tied together, are people that go to bed, they can't go to sleep, they go to sleep, they can't stay asleep, they wake up in the morning and they're already ready for what the day is. We had a gentleman in class a couple of years ago that we were talking about this particular quadrant, and he stopped me right here and he said, oh, hold on a minute. And he reached into his book bag and he pulled out a little mini recorder and he said, here, you guys want to know what I was thinking about at 2 o'clock this morning? And he had literally recorded himself, because that's the way. Or you know, people who will keep a pad and pencil beside their bed because in the middle of the night something will come to their mind and they don't want to forget it. That is literally this whole quadrant of strategic thinking. So where are you recognizing that? I want you to remember for sure this timeline theme, that all of us reside there somewhere. So you don't have to necessarily be in a quadrant to recognize that you are influenced by a quadrant.